delighted to have the Reverend Steve Minnema with us, return as our speaker this morning. And many of us think we know Steve because he's spoken here several times, but I don't think we've ever shared his full bio before. And sorry, Steve, I'm going to do it. or at least the bio he shared with us. I'm sure there's a lot more to his life. Steve was born in the Dutch community of Western Michigan in 1949. He holds a BA from the University of Michigan in 1971, a master's in divinity from Harvard Divinity School in 1976, and a Doctor of Ministry from Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, Illinois in 1991. And after his ordination to the Presbyterian ministry in 1976, he served churches throughout the Midwest for 35 years. Two of his main emphases in ministry were community organizing and international involvement. He led mission trips to Haiti and Guatemala and continues to this day to visit Presbyterian churches in rural Colombia, which we've heard him speak about, seeking justice and peace for the displaced. Upon retiring from full-time ministry, Steve moved to La Crosse to marry Deborah Buffton, our very own Deborah, a retired professor of history from UWL. He also spent 8 years as an adjunct professor of ethics and religious studies at Viterbo University. Steve has presented numerous papers at various conferences on issues of justice and peace. His first book was a collection of stories drawn from his ministry, A Small Good Story and Other Tales of a Pastor, Weaver at Work. He is currently concluding a 3-volume study under the title Moral Whistleblowers, The Resilience of the Prophetic Spirit in Western Society. The first volume, available from Amazon, looks at the biblical foundations of prophecy, using Moses as a paradigm and arguing that the full significance of Jesus cannot be grasped without recovering his role as a reincarnation of his Hebrew prophet predecessors. The second volume, also now available, looks at a wide range of characters who took up the prophetic calling in the West after the church had surrendered that role in cozying up to Rome. The third volume argues that the resilient prophetic spirit is still discernible today in a wide variety of TED Talk speakers who address critical issues facing human civilization. Steve's favorite hobbies include travel, reading, weaving, gardening, and golf. He has 4 kids and 8 grandkids, and many of you know he's been to hell and back this year. So it is a delight that you are here with us today, Steve, and that you're able to walk with a cane up to this lectern.
Deborah and I are presenting papers at a conference in November of the Peace History Society in the United States. And my paper is going to be on the use of TED Talks in peace education. And so I thought I would share something of that with you today. And when Amanda mentioned that your theme for this month is belonging, I thought that focuses what I want to do, because what is peacemaking but creating a space where all the parties to a conflict can come together, meet, talk, be heard, and feel like they belong. So peacemaking is belonging, creating, we hope. Okay, the next slide. The first step, imagining and taking responsibility. I heard this wonderful story that I love so much I have to tell it to everybody. A teacher was teaching art to her grade school children, and she was talking to them in front, and she noticed a little girl in the back who never listened to anything she said before, but this time was listening and was starting to work on something. So after the teacher's talk, she went back to this little girl and she looked at what she was doing and she said, "What are you drawing?" And the little girl, who was not a Unitarian, said, "God." And the teacher said, "Oh, my dear, no one knows what God looks like." "Well," the little girl said, "they will in a few minutes." Well, I love the audacity of that child, but I think we need a similar audacity when it comes to peacemaking. We need an audacity that says we can imagine what peace looks like, and we can say something, do something with our lives so that others will see it. And that really says, well, the next slide, please, Cole. What I found as I started looking for peacemakers on the web and especially on TED Talks. Are you all familiar with TED Talks? Okay. So I spent a lot of time looking for peacemakers, and I came up with a list of 25 different TED Talks that are devoted in one way or another to peace. And it was an inspiring experience to meet them. And as a matter of fact, I have a list. These are just a couple of them. I have a list, and I would be happy to send it to anyone who would like to get it. You can't find it on any directory on the web. And as a matter of fact, when you go to the TED directory, they don't even list peace as a category, which is kind of amazing to me. But I do have this list, and my email was at the front, and it's at the back of this presentation as well. So anybody who's interested, you're welcome to email me, and I'd be glad to send you the list of TED Talk speakers. Okay, but the thing that struck me as I put this list together, these are people from all over the world, from different occupations, different lifestyles, different ages, but all of them saying, I have a responsibility to work for peace, and I have a gift, my own gift, that I'm going to devote to that cause. And so they're an inspiration to me, and I hope that they might be an inspiration to you as well. It's not for the specialists alone. It's not for the elite. It's for anyone who says, we need more peace in this world, and I have something to give to it. Okay, the next one, please. So the plan I want to follow today is to explore what we can learn from these peacemakers about how to create a space in the midst of conflict where people can meet and talk. What are these peacemakers? I'm going to introduce you to a bunch of them, not all of them on my list, but a bunch of them, and suggest that they have some things to teach us. Okay, Cole? If you see just one of my peacemakers from the TED Talk list, this is the one that I would urge you to see. This woman's name is Meredith Preston McGee. She's a Canadian. She worked for 20 years as a peacemaker in Africa in the midst of some of the worst conflicts on that continent. And she talks a little about that in this TED Talk of hers. And she talks about the polarization that she stepped into in those conflicts as a peacemaker. But the thing that she says is that when she's coming back now, a few years ago, the thing that startled her and that caught her attention was that the very same polarization that she had seen in Africa was now being present here in our societies in North America. And so she says in this talk that what is needed for us, for all of us, is to learn how to step into the middle ground as a place where people can meet and be heard and understood and be given a place where they belong. And what's interesting to me is that she does this out of a commitment to an organization she's involved in, which is the Pluralism Project, because she understands that true peacemaking aims at creating a pluralistic society, right? Where everyone can feel that they belong and are valued and are appreciated. Okay, the next slide. This young woman, I loved watching her. She's deaf, she can't talk, so she signs the whole talk, but there is English subtitles, so you can follow along what she's saying. And what she's basically telling us is her story of coming out. This is how she puts it, coming out as a pacifist. And I love her spirit because she says, I don't know everything about peace. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I do know that people didn't want me to take this stand. They were opposed to it, but I came out because I think we need to take a new look at the way in which our military system is dominating our society, and we need to, and all that we're losing that could be spent on other things. So it's this passionate sort of talk of someone who's sort of just stepping into the realm of peacemaking, but saying, I don't care that I don't know a lot or that I have to sign everything that I'm saying. I'm going to take this stand for peace. And she was inspiring to me. Okay, the next one. Okay, I wanted to think about 4 ways that you could prepare yourself to be a peacemaker if you feel moved to do that, which I hope you will. 4 preparations that you can take. The first, and this is in honor of Deborah, really, I think, who's been so involved in peace history. But really, the first is to learn about peace history. And the woman that stands for this so clearly is Karen Armstrong. I don't think some of you know Karen Armstrong. She is a scholar of religion from Great Britain, who played such a major role in the post 9/11 period of trying to help the religions, the Abrahamic religions, to understand what they had in common instead of what they how different they were. And she argues in this talk not only that all of the religions of the world have a form of the golden rule, and that they ought to be observing that, but she says that all of the religions of the world have a tradition of recognizing and affirming the fact that where you meet God in the world is in meeting the stranger, the other, the one you don't know. And in that meeting, you meet God. And so she's calling on us to recover that tradition and to practice it in our lives. And that's the kind of thing that you can learn if you're willing to prepare by studying peace history. There's lots of other things you can learn there too, but that's a good preparation. The second way is to make peace with yourself. You can't see this young woman. Her name is Sana Giovanni, but she's quite an impressive soul as well. Sana, as a child, had an affliction in which she lost all of her hair as a young child, and she started going to school, and hair would come out of her head at school, and so she got picked on and teased, and it was a terrible struggle. The bullying that she went through. They finally found a wig for her, and she tried that, but that didn't feel well, and she was struggling inside. And finally, she said to herself, I need to be okay with who I am and just come out as who I am. So she started to come to school with no hair. And she said, like it or not, this is who I am. And they respected her. Finally, there was a level of respect, and the bullying stopped. And then she went on and actually had a major influence. She started a website, and she got followers, thousands of followers. She became kind of well known for this idea of making peace with yourself so that you can make peace with others. And then she says in this TED Talk, the more well known I got, the more I started wondering, what about all my flaws? I've got lots of bad attitudes in me, and now people are seeing me in a different way. What am I going to do about this? And finally she said, I learned, finally, that not only did I have to come to peace with my disability, but I also had to come to peace with my imperfections. Because I could never be a peacemaker if I couldn't be at peace with being imperfect. Good lesson, right? Yeah. Okay, the next one. Third great way to prepare for peace is with your enemies is to make peace with your friends. This fella was part of the process of negotiating peace in Northern Ireland. And he tells a story about how, as a member of the Protestant community, wanted to start negotiating peace with the Catholic community in Northern Ireland, he finally realized that he had to make peace with his Protestant associates if he was going to have any success in making peace with the Catholics as well. And there's a good lesson there too, isn't there? About the importance of making peace with your allies, so that you're stronger as you seek to make peace with those who are opposite you. Okay, the next slide. Finally, ponder and commit to nonviolence. Julia Baca is a filmmaker. She tells the story of visiting Palestine and of discovering women working for justice in Palestine through a commitment to nonviolence in the actions that they were taking there. And I think peacemakers need to commit to nonviolence. As we look at what's happening in our society right now, I read an article this morning in the New York Times quoting some websites, some major influencers saying it's wartime now. We need to commit to nonviolence. Next. Okay, so then these are ways that you prepare. Now let's say that you've decided that there's an arena in which you are called to be a peacemaker. All right? I don't know what it would be. I had the thought the other day in the meeting that we were at here on Thursday night, wouldn't it be wonderful if somebody could initiate at the university here or at Viterbo or at Western a simple program of having students sit down in organized conversations and talk about their differences with one another? I read recently a college student saying, we only talk with those we agree with. Would it be wonderful if at the college level we could have students coming together and trying to understand each other? That's just one example of a realm that could be undertaken. All right, 6 steps. First, next one. Learn as much as you can about the conflict and the combatants. Don't go in blind to peacemaking, but do your homework. Try to understand. This is a man, I just finished a long book of his. He's an expert in minerals and the use of minerals, and he does this TED Talk about how we can find a way for the nations of the world to mine and harvest green minerals for green energy without having to fight over them, which is a real threat these days. And in order to present that proposal, he had to study all those issues, including its history, and the people involved, and the countries involved, and the corporations involved, so that he could be a peacemaker. Hopefully your arena won't require that level of concentration, but some kind of study is necessary. Understand where people are coming from, what the history of this conflict is. Don't just step into it blind. The next one, be clear about your goals. That's a good point. You don't say, I'm going to bring peace to the world. Good luck with that. But be clear about what you're trying to do. This young man is an actor from Great Britain. And a number of years ago, he had the idea. He said to himself, wouldn't it be nice if we had one day of the year designated for peace? Just one day. That was his goal. So he started talking around, he started traveling around, he started spreading the word. Oh, by the way, he chose his mother's birthday as the day for peace because she was the one who inspired him to work for peace. And do you know, I don't know if you've heard this story, do you know that eventually his campaign got him to the United Nations, and at the United Nations, that day of peace was declared for all the world. Now you can say that's easy, just a declaration. But shortly after that, the parties that were fighting in war in Afghanistan agreed to a truce for that day. And during that time of peace, 1 million children in Afghanistan were inoculated. All because this man had a clear goal and stuck to it. All right, the next. Step 3, hone your message. This man, again, the picture is a little dark down there, but this man is a photographer from New Zealand. And one day he had an idea to make a contribution for world peace. He decided that the white rose was a symbol of peace, and that he would travel the world and photograph people holding the white rose. And then he would put together photographic exhibits so that people could look at those exhibits and could realize how beautiful we are when we are together, when we are diverse, and when we are at peace with one another. Simple message, but a powerful one. And he succeeded in that. He's still working on it, as a matter of fact. Okay, next. Step 4, leave your comfort zone and invite people to join you in a dialogue in the middle ground. This is an amazing person. This is another filmmaker. She's an indigenous filmmaker from Canada who was part of the Standing Rock protest at the pipeline in North Dakota a few years ago. And she tells the story of standing in a river with other indigenous people as a barrier to the construction people who are wanting to cross that river and start working on the pipeline. And those construction people were also interspersed with military people, armed military people. And it was a face-off between the people standing in the river and the people opposite them wanting to cross. And she said, we stood there, no one knew what was going to happen. But she said, all of a sudden, the indigenous woman standing next to me started to sing. And then after she'd sung for a while, she looked at the soldier standing across from her. She stopped and she said to him, she looked him right in the eye and said, I see you. And I see you seeing me. And then she started singing to him. And then they started the tear gas, throwing the tear gas. And that soldier said to that woman, get out, run, go save yourself. The woman refused to do that, but continued singing. And this filmmaker says, in that moment, there was a human connection made across the barriers. Two people recognized each other as human beings, deserving respect. What a wonderful story. All right, step 5. Persist. Doesn't happen overnight. This woman was a marathon runner. And as she was preparing for a marathon, early in her life, she got hit by a bus. And her marathon career was ended. But as she was in the hospital recovering from her injuries, she told her husband, bring me some notepaper. I want to start planning a marathon for my country, for Lebanon. And that's what she did. She organized the first marathon in Lebanon and continued doing it for almost 20 years through civil war, through all the destruction that was happening in Lebanon. There was one day a year when they would stop and they would come together and join in a marathon to show themselves that peace was possible. All because she persisted. And finally, the last step, Cole, is evaluate. Keep on evaluating what you're doing. Is it working? Is it effective? This is Jody Williams, Nobel Peace Prize winner, because she organized a campaign to ban landmines that effectively resulted in a treaty in 1997 that banned the use and implementation and production of landmines all over the world, except here in the US. We didn't participate. But the success of that treaty, both before it was signed and after, as they continued monitoring it, was all because every time they got together as a group or as participants, as activists, afterwards they would say, how'd we do? What can we improve? Evaluate. Okay, next one. All right, I like this quote, Benjamin Franklin. There are three kinds of people: the unmovable, the movable, and the movers. I think peacemakers are movers. Peacemakers are willing to take the risks of taking action to create a space where people can feel like they belong. And then I want to give the last word to my one last peacemaker. This is a young man. He looks to be about 14, and I think he is. He's a Colombian who participated in a youth presentation and TED Youth down in Colombia. Name is Mateo Franco Harrington. And he got up, I think his speech was only about 5 minutes long, but he got up on there and he said, well, I want to tell you that I love to read. And he said, and I love to read about war, and I love to read about peace. And I've read lots of books about different conflicts around the world, and I'm here to tell you that I've come to the conclusion that war is a choice, just like peace is a choice. And he says, I hope we'll choose well. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for you.